Welcome to Sassy, Soulful, and Sensitive, a podcast for us introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Cam Nichols, and together we're going to explore the strengths and struggles that come along with our sensitivity and learn how to trust our intuition and trust our voice. Let's dive in. What's up, Buttercups? Hope you are having a fantastic day. It is a Monday morning at the time I am recording this, and I just got back from a beautiful retreat in southern Utah with one of my clients and best friends, and we just had a excellent time. And I got to see some waterfalls, red rocks, all of the goodies. Today, we're going to be talking about managing our time and energy. This is extremely important for us as sensitive people because of how we experience the world. Because we experience the world on such a deep intellectual and emotional level, it just opens the drain to all the time and energy. We like to explore all the rabbit holes, all of the things. So it is super important in understanding how to manage our time and energy and figure out exactly what that looks like for ourselves. So today's quote is by Leigh Stevens. And the quote is, "Extraordinary productivity is not about time management. It's about managing your decisions, attention, and energy." Today's episode is specifically, it's good for anyone who is really seeking more balance in their life and who want to make the most of their time and energy that they have available. We're going to talk about understanding energy management as a sensitive person. We're going to talk about identifying your personal energy drains. We're also going to talk about strategies for recharging and building your resilience. I love me some resilience, folks. Love me some resilience, because that is what life is about. One of the things anyway. And then 4 is how to manage our time. To start, let's talk about understanding our energy management as a sensitive person. We have so many amounts of energy per day. We then decide who to give that energy to or what to give that energy to. And we only have a limited amount of energy to give before we are on empty and we need to recharge. It's just like our cell phone. Exactly like our cell phone. Technology mimicking the human experience. Managing our time and energy, it's so easy for us as sensitive people to really kind of get into making it more important to manage other people's time and energy than it is our own. And I think that's when we fall into the trap. When we end up giving all of our energy in trying to manage everybody else. Sometimes this can look like constantly overthinking and trying to figure out what another person is thinking or feeling or what they'll do, what their next action will be. Sometimes it can be overthinking about strategies for work or home or calendaring. All of those things, even though it might not be action, it still takes up your time and your energy. And this is where I see with a lot of my clients is a lot of the energy we're spending, it's such an internal experience, and a lot of people don't see, like they can't see that because it's inside our brain, it's inside our body. And so other people can't see that. And then my clients, they're thinking that they need to be able to show what they're doing in order to be validated for the energy they're expending. And because it can't be seen by other people, they never get that validation. And so then what they do, and I'll be honest, I do the exact same thing, my friends. This is a human thing as a sensitive soul. Then what we do is we beat ourselves up because it doesn't look the way that we think that it should. And it just becomes this very ugly cycle, and we quickly spiral downward. And it leads to burnout. We can get overstimulated. We just end up feeling completely drained. So that's why it's important to understand how to manage our time and energy. And it's important to understand why we need to do that. Because we can't live this fulfilling, meaningful life with these amazing relationships, going on amazing adventures, whether that is out in the physical world, whether that's in books and television, like whatever it may be for you. We can't create that meaning and that experience in our lives if we're constantly draining our energy, if we're constantly trying to manage everyone else around us or trying to manage ourselves around everyone around us. That goes into this next segment of finding personal energy drains. What does this look like for you? Take a moment. What are the people, places, and things that if I'm just sitting there, that I can just feel the energy draining? This is where you really want to tune into your body and just notice without any prompting. You're just kind of in the environment. You're just around a certain person. Just take notice of what are some of the thoughts that are going through your head. Physically, how are you feeling? Do you feel like your shoulders are starting to slump a little bit? Like you're losing posture? Does it feel like you could take a nap? Oh my gosh. When I go to parties, including parties with people that I love, but because of the overstimulation, I always end up like falling asleep in a corner or like on the floor somewhere. And that is an example of an energy drain for me. Going and staying at parties past the time that I think I should go, that I want to stay because my husband's having a good time, or I don't want people to think that I'm leaving because I'm not enjoying myself, and blah, 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 blah. I can make up all of the excuses, all of the justifications. And then what do I end up doing? I end up sleeping in the corner. Like that is an example of an energy drain. But just take note for you, what are those? Are there certain people that you're around that just drain your energy? Either because you're not managing your mind and things around them, or just because like they're like an energy vampire. I know that that is a term a lot in like the empathic world, energy vampire, but you know those people that you don't like to be around because it's always about them. It's like no matter what they're doing, they're always just kind of sucking the life out of the room. They're like a vacuum. That's an energy vampire. And those people exist. Some of them know that they're doing it. A lot of them don't know that they're doing it. This is why it's important for you to tune in for yourself when you're around certain people, to just notice, do you naturally gain energy from those people that you're around, or when you're around them, does your energy drain? And please don't think that just because you're around someone and you gain energy from them, that does not automatically make you an energetic vampire. So please, 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 please don't think that that's the case. Energy vampirism is very much a one-way street. Take my friend that I went to this retreat with, my friend and my client, and we are constantly talking about the mutual benefit that we give each other energetically, emotionally, all of that stuff. Being around each other gives us energy, but it's a mutual thing. So that's kind of the difference. So please don't think that you're an energy vampire if you are energized around someone. Just check in with yourself and check in with them. Are there visual cues? Is there something that you can say to them? A question you can ask of, yeah, how does this feel to you? Whatever it may be, there's 1,000 different ways to do it. Just do a check-in with yourself, do a check-in with them to make sure that it's mutually beneficial. Another thing that you want to take note of is also like certain technologies, situations, environments. A good experiment I think could be interesting to try is spend some time just scrolling on your phone. But take note of when you start, and then keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling to your heart's content. But just notice the time, how many minutes pass before it starts to become an energy drain. This is where all things in moderation, that quote kind of comes into play. Because it's like, yeah, scrolling on our phone can be a great like way to just kind of check out for a minute. It can be a great way for self-care. But at what point for you does it turn from self-care to energy drain? That's where that will become a problem. So take note. How many minutes goes by? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 60 minutes? What is it for you? The more in tune that you get with understanding your energy drains, your personal energy drains, whether that's the environment, relationships, technology, whatever, it will get easier for you to identify where to say no. I know that can be really scary sometimes, but setting boundaries is so, so important for us as human beings, for introverts, for empaths, as sensitive people. Our job in the world is not to go and do. Like, that's just not our role in the world. It could be at times, but that constant Energizer Bunny, go, do, that's not our thing. You don't have to do that. But in order, like, you need to learn how to set boundaries and learn how to say no to people and activities that you know drain your energy. That's just an exhausting way to live. It's exhausting. And you deserve so much more than that. But you're the only person that can really cultivate that for yourself in learning how to set boundaries. But in order to do that, and in order to say no, you first have to know where your energy goes. When is it drained? So now let's talk about some strategies to recharge and just kind of build up that resilience. Resilience is something that people in the corporate world, like my leaders and my peers, they would always talk to me about my resilience. And I loved it. I mean, I love getting attention sometimes, like we all do. But there were other times where I was just like, I'm resilient because I have to be. There's not another choice. And what I later discovered is like, it's actually 100% of a choice, because there are times where I may have been resilient at work, but in my personal life, I was not resilient at all. That's when I completely isolated myself from people. I dropped out of all my life-giving things and became a beautiful couch potato, sweet potato, if you will. When I look back on that time, like, I don't feel shame about that. And if you're in that same spot, like, you don't need to feel shame about that either. Like, there are times where that's necessary, but it's kind of like what I was saying about like scrolling with the phone. It's like, okay, when does it go from self-care to self-sabotage in how it drains your energy? Building resilience is about practicing self-care. It's knowing the difference of what is self-care versus what is self-sabotaging behavior. That could be isolating like I did. It could be overindulging in food. It could be overindulging in TV or entertainment or whatever it may be. Those are some of mine. Those are my go-tos. My self-care very much revolves around alone time, food, and entertainment. And I continue to get better and continue to refine. Okay, this is the point where it becomes a problem. That's what you need to figure out for you, because there is a point where it's no longer building resilience. It's no longer self-care, and it becomes self-sabotage. So another piece of building resilience is that mindfulness. It's about being present in the moment. And that is such a great way to tell whether you are in self-care mode or whether you are in self-sabotage mode. An example for me is I'm sitting there watching Netflix. When I'm in self-care mode, I am in the story of what I'm watching or what I'm listening to. I'm in the story. I'm following along. I am engaged. I am riveted. That switches over when I kind of get away from that mindfulness and I'm not as engaged or riveted, and I end up being bored while I'm watching something. So then I'll pick up my phone and I'll start playing games, or I'll start to work on a different project instead of just recharging in the way that I want. And what happens is it actually becomes more draining. Again, it goes away from self-care into self-sabotage, because at that point when I'm trying to do something else while also having the Netflix and TV going in the background, that's draining. That easily leads to overstimulation. What happens with overstimulation? You just drain faster. It's like all of this energy that I was working to accumulate, I just kind of like drop it on the floor. And this is exactly what my clients do as well. Theirs may look a little bit different. I have one client who loves to exercise, and they exercise like 2-3 times a day, almost every single day. Sometimes, most of the time, I would say it's excellent self-care. But there is a point at when that switches from self-care to self-sabotage. That mindfulness is going to be super, super important. When you're present in the moment, you're in self-care. When you are not present and your mind is wandering while you're doing something, that's when you're starting to slip into self-sabotage and losing that resilience. And another way to do this, and I know that this isn't for everybody, so take this, leave it. If it's helpful, it's yours. If it's not, leave it at the door. Meditation. I am a huge fan of meditation and just the physiological and emotional benefits of meditation. I think it's a great awareness practice. And I think that is part of why it's so difficult for so many people, is because they're like, their mind just spins and spins and spins, which is not a problem. The mental spinning is not a problem. One could actually argue that it's a sign of intellect. But it's like when we're thinking like, oh, our mind needs to be completely still, that becomes a judgment, and that's an energy drain. So just notice again that difference between the energy drain versus building resilience and recharging. They can be so subtle, and that's why it's so important for you to really tune into yourself, into your own mind, into your own body, so that you can really understand what that looks like for you. The next piece is that I want to talk about is like just time management. When it comes to time management, everything that we talked about is going to help you manage your time. If you are managing your energy, you're going to manage your time, because what happens is when you're aware of what drains your energy, when you then start to practice saying no and setting boundaries, and you start learning when you need self-care versus when you don't, like start tracking your energy levels and taking note of your schedule, and start to check out some patterns. There's going to be some mismatch at the beginning, and this is where scheduling becomes such an experiment. There's so many different ways to calendar and create your time and schedule. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what you should do because I have no idea what you should do. I can help you figure it out. If you want to come work with me one-on-one, this is something that I absolutely help my clients with. But it's so important that you figure out what that schedule is for you. But I'm not aware of any calendar system that does not involve some type of time blocking. Otherwise, you're not calendaring, you're not scheduling. You're just kind of flapping in the wind. When you notice your energy drains and you notice the things that give you energy, take note of those and then create your schedule. Create the schedule that aligns with your energy levels. I love hearing my female friends when they plan their month around their feminine cycles. There's a lot of like men out there who won't understand, who don't get it. And we say poo-poo to you, poo-poo to those guys. But I admire those women so much because that is awareness and self-care and resilience. And that shit is stuff that we need to admire more. They have taken charge of their energy cycles and their energy patterns, and they've built it into their schedule. I love when I hear that kind of stuff from people. Regardless of your gender or how you identify, whatever, the concept is the same. Are there certain times in the month? Are there certain days in the week that tend to be more difficult for you? And how can you create a schedule that allows you to give yourself more compassion and care on those days? That's what is going to change your life as far as creating the calendar and really creating this amazing life that you want to build. You can see it in your mind. And the only problem is that you're judging that you don't have what you're envisioning. And the only reason you don't have it is because you're trying to do it some other person's way. If you're to have any kind of takeaway from this, understanding your time and energy, identifying what those personal drains are, looking for these strategies for recharging and building that resilience, and then learning how to manage your time by creating the schedule that aligns with your energy, this is it. This is how you create that fulfilling life. And where a lot of people get off track, off the path, whatever you want to call it, is when judgment's coming in. So as you're going through this process of identifying your energy drains, learning how to differentiate self-care from self-sabotage, what those boundaries are for yourself, and creating this calendar, this schedule for you, think of it as an experiment and ask yourself how you can bring compassion in every single way, because that is going to be imperative in creating that success for you. But I promise you it is 100% doable. You will fail. I guarantee that as well. As you go through this process, you will 100% fail and you will 100% succeed because it is an experiment. All of this is an experiment. That mindset, maybe I'll just do an entire podcast on this because I think this is super important as well. But having an experimental mindset, that alone can just change your life. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. I hope that you take away the amazing things from today's episode and you go and apply, and I would love to hear from you. Send me an email, reach out on social media, leave a comment, any of the things. I would love to hear from you. As always, shining bright gives others permission to shine as well. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to learn how to find your voice and lean in more to the powerful force of nature that you know exists within you, head on over to coachwithcam.com and take the What Element Are You quiz. You'll discover how to align with your secret strength that you perceive as a weakness so you can break the cycle of doubt and step into your badassery. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform and share it with a friend or family member who you want to connect with on a deeper level. You'll be helping other sensitive folks like yourself and like me find and join our amazing community. So let's connect and support each other on this incredible journey.